Boo! Whoop. Hey, how's it going? Hey, do you know what dealing with difficult people or uncomfortable social situations does? Yeah, it forces you to form coping strategies and develop social skills so that the next time you encounter such a situation, it won't be such a big deal.
It is an absolutely normal part of your psychological development as you mature into the person you eventually become.
It's cliche as shit, but adversity is how you develop character.
As you grow up and make your way in the world, you should absolutely be talking to all different kinds of people from all different backgrounds, learning a little bit about the world through each one of those people, broadening your mind, broadening your perspective. It makes you more of a well-rounded person. It is through learning about other people that you actually learn about yourself.
It's part of developing empathy.
It is through adversity that you learn to cope with and interact with the world, but it is through diversity that you more fully experience and understand the world. You learn who you do and don't want to be. You learn that despite the incredible diversity of the human animal on this planet, when it comes right down to it, we're all really the same thing. People are just people.
With that in mind, wouldn't it be nice if some people stopped defining the world by labels or expecting the world to change to suit them in an attempt to avoid meritocracy or having to develop some sort of personality? Your laundry list of unchangeable physical and psychological attributes aren't actually what define you as a person.
Or at least it isn't all that defines you as a person. To my way of thinking, what you do is at least as important as what you are, and probably more so.
To take a couple more steps along that line of thinking, assigning yourself a label isn't actually an accomplishment. It's just a label. And defining whether people get to have an opinion or the value of their opinion by what label you've assigned them is actually just kind of being a shitty person.
You're just weaponizing identity politics to silence opinions you don't like.
While your race, your religion, your sexuality, your gender identity, while all of those things are obviously important parts of who you are and parts of your life, they shouldn't define all that you are and all that you're capable of being. I don't think you need to silence one voice to give prominence to another voice, and I think if you're making the basis of that decision a list of labels, it's probably not the positive change that you want to think it is.
Reducing everything to assigned labels or boxes to put people in is a way to simplify the world in a comforting way so that you never actually have to experience or be a part of it. When you use the ultimately divisive language of identity politics in an effort to promote diversity, you end up doing the exact opposite. Using a label allows you to disassociate yourself from the human condition, to act outside of things, to not really be a part of it. That line of thinking leads inevitably to segregation, because when you start defining people by a list of attributes, everyone ends up eventually in their individual, segregated identity boxes. When you divide everyone into labels, eventually they stop being people and just start being labels. In time, that label comes to stand in your mind for everything that person was, is, or ever could be. So why would you ever talk to them for yourselves? Why would you ever experience an interaction with this person that you already know all you need to know about?
Choosing to isolate yourself in an echo chamber of your own opinions to avoid thinking uncomfortable thoughts, developing social skills, character, you're really not doing yourself any favors. Reducing the world to labels isn't going to make the world a better place.
There's really no good logical reason to judge someone based solely on unchangeable physical or psychological attributes. It's dumb.
While I'm sure it might feel good to pretend you've accomplished something when you take on a label based on a personal attribute, you're ultimately only fooling yourself. In terms of self-realization, you've basically done the equivalent of putting a sticker on your forehead.
It's just something about you. You didn't actually do anything.
I have no illusions about being in the minority when it comes to that opinion, but I just think that I don't really want to do this divide and conquer shit anymore. Doesn't it seem a whole lot more constructive to concentrate on everything that we have in common, the things that bind us together, the things that allow us to work together and accomplish things? I'm just tired of putting labels on everyone, putting everyone into their separate boxes, and then deciding that that box determines the value of them as a person and all of their opinions. I think it's mostly counterproductive.
That way of thinking is a slippery slope to deciding that not only do those boxes decide your value as a person, but your rights, your freedoms, and the extent that you even are a person.
At this point, I'm just kind of over identity politics and virtue signaling.
It's dumb.
All they've really accomplished, despite starting out with really high ideals, is stoking hostilities between different groups.
Instead of rising above our differences as intended, all we've really done is draw attention to them. With the rise of virtue signaling, you created a bunch of people who are way more interested in looking like good people than in actually doing anything that would make them good people. When you take it down to our basic biology, the human animal is part of the primate family, and primates are notoriously territorial and hierarchical. I think that identity politics and that sort of thing kind of exacerbates that part of our primitive brain.
Obviously, if you're a government bureaucracy and you're trying to run a country, a divided people is way easier to rule than a united one.
While the peasants lose themselves in squabbles over divisions, both real and imagined, the elite do as they please, with them none the wiser. I think it's a pretty fair and safe statement to make that a lot of governments all over the world have embraced this way of thinking, these identity politics, in an effort to divide and conquer us. Because it works. Divide and conquer is a very old strategy, but there's a reason it's old. Because it works. But why do we want to help people that were elected to look out for our best interests just rule us instead?
This divide and conquer shit just has us squabbling and hating everybody. I'm bored. Can we do something else now?